but we're still going to go ahead. Still got the guest, so all is good. Perfect. So just to get it started, Ivan, how you been?
Very good, Ben. Thanks for having me on.
No, that's our pleasure. Our pleasure. So do you just want to give everyone a little bit of a backstory, tell them about yourself a little bit, what level you've coached at, and some experiences you've had?
Absolutely. So I started as a footballer, been back in the old National Soccer League, and all of the young players there probably can't even remember that, but that was the A-League equivalent back in the late 90s and early 2000s. I played for a club called the Melbourne Knights, and I think the best claim to fame is most of the people know Mark Viduka. Mark Viduka was a player at that football club. I never reached his dizzy heights, hence why I'm on this Zoom call. But yeah, as a player, I was just hard at it. I wasn't never achieved Socceroo status or anything. Parents, pretty much asked me to play football to keep me out of trouble. School was a priority, and I was fortunate enough to be what you'd call back in the day a pro, semi-pro type footballer. Yeah. After that, I've got a family, and then I went into coaching, and I started right at the bottom. I coached kids, very young, technique development, helped the FFA with a skill acquisition program where I was a specialist in Victoria and where I lived. And from there, I was fortunate enough to go into the men's A-League, and I went probably to the best football club I've worked for, which was Melbourne City. But the best thing there was I was part of the City Football Group, which owns Man City and so forth. So having access to best practice, the best players, the best coaches in the world, and being able to knowledge share was wonderful for my development. Where I was there for, I think about 2 or 3 years. Then from there, I departed for Sydney for family reasons, and I went from the richest club to the poorest club, the Central Coast Mariners. And again, that was really good. You learn a different way of coaching and applying resources. From there, again, tough results-based industry. We've departed there, the head coach and myself. And then I was lucky to go into the young Socceroos, the under-20 national team, and did about 18 months there. And from there, I went into the Matildas. So everyone has jumped on the Matildas bandwagon the last little while. I was fortunate enough to be with the team and part of the technical staff at the 2019 World Cup in France. I was there for 2.5 years with the Matildas. And then out of that, COVID got us there. We qualified the team for the Olympics, didn't get to the Olympics because of COVID, and then took an opportunity locally with Macarthur Bulls in the A-League, where I spent 3 years. And now I'm sort of just doing my own thing.
Yeah, that's good. You've run a very successful academy. Keeping up with it, it's very well run.
No, thank you.
So basically today we've got a few questions that myself and Josip and Ray have drafted up, as well as a few questions that have been sent through from players. And I imagine we'll get a few questions as well popped into the chat throughout the meeting.
Yeah, for sure.
But, I think to get us started, we can jump right into it. This is the first question of the day. So when you were training as a National League player, searching for your opportunities, did you ever feel like it was not going well? And how did you manage the mindset to persist?
Yeah, it's a top question. It's probably something that all of the young players will experience on occasions, and that is that you have this goal, and most of us in the room would have a goal of performing or getting that role or position at a professional football club. Now, what I ask and what I dealt with as a young footballer was making sure that you don't spend all your time worrying and focusing on the end goal. I always thought to myself, that's a positive fantasy. That's fantasizing playing professional footballer for you guys. Yeah. Yes, we're going to get there, but if you keep focusing just on the end goal, you probably won't get there. So the way to deal with it and the way I dealt with it was I just made sure that I needed to be the best version of myself at every training, right? So don't worry about the end goal. The process of getting there is be the best at training at the level you're currently playing at. Don't worry about playing or performing for Man City. You're not at Man City today. You're at Redlands or wherever it is, or at North Geelong or at the Melbourne Knights, whatever it is. Be the best version of yourself at that level. And Don't get distracted thinking you're not going to get there, because the positive fantasy, break that down into small little chunks. And I think goal setting and having short-term goals is absolutely critical. And like I said, I always focused on being the best version of myself daily. And I felt that got me to the level I could get to and to the level I aspired to.
Yeah, perfect. So just them little 1%ers, taking it day by day, you think is the best way to do it?
That's it, because that's all you can control. You can't control Pep Guardiola phoning. Right? I can't control that, but my performances may get him to pick up the phone.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Love that answer. And then transferring that to coaching days, are you able to pick up on a player that is dipping in their mindset and behaviors? And how do you trigger them to get themselves out of their heads and into the moment that they're playing in?
Yeah, you can definitely see even the high level performers go through periods of where they lack the self-belief and where you start to doubt. So the first thing I'll tell all the players is it's normal to have those doubts in your mind on the journey. It won't be a linear line to the top. It never will in life. It never will in football. So your ability to handle those setbacks and ability to handle those and manage those bumps along the way, that's what differentiates those that will and won't become pro footballers. So as a coach, the reality is, again, you're referring back to stay on course, manage what you can manage your performance. What does a good performance look like? Well, it might be go back into the moment. The moment might be win the next tackle, make the next pass. So don't overcomplicate by thinking of big moments. Just control the moment you are in. And if you can control those moments, I always tell players, remember, for example, Ben, moment plus moment plus moment equals momentum.
Yeah.
That's critical. So have a good moment. And that moment could be that I just said, man on, Ben, and we've kept possession. Turn, Ben, or great touch, or win a tackle. And if you have these moments, before you know it, the doubts go away. And then when you get into that confident feeling where you're invincible, that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, all about confidence. I think we just had a question popped into the chat from Chimdi, and he says, "How does playing up an age group help a player?" So, for example, when you're younger, playing up just one age group, maybe two, and how does that help?
Playing up is a really interesting thing, and I always ask players and parents to be just not careful, because I think it's important. But what you need to do is, the purpose of playing up is to make sure that the level you're currently playing is just out of reach, because you don't want to be in an environment where you're the best and everything's easy. That's false. That ain't challenging you, and that ain't forcing you to solve more complex football problems. What I find now is that everyone has this desire to play up, but not everyone's ready for it. Because if it's too far out of reach, the next level, then all of a sudden you as a footballer won't take risks. How do you explore and how do you work out what your ability is if you're always playing safe? And safe soccer is, I don't know if I can say it, but we say safe soccer is shit soccer. You can't play safe, right? You can't play safe. So what I say is, when you're playing up, make sure you're doing it and it's just out of reach, and keep reaching for that level that's just above you. On occasions, if you find when you are playing up and it ain't going for you, spend 3 or 4 weeks there, then drop back down and get your confidence back up at a level where it is a bit easier. But don't always be at a level which is challenging you so much that you start to not take risks, lack belief, and make so many errors, because that's when you start to lose confidence.
Yep. So all just about finding that middle ground.
It is, Ben, and just find the sweet spot for you. You don't want to be the best. You don't want to be the worst. Find it somewhere. And if you need to move between levels, do it with confidence.
Yeah, perfect. Question number 3. When managing players at a club level, were there certain qualities aside from technical skills that you looked out for in players, and what were they and why?
Yeah, look, I think there's when you go into senior football, and in particular when you go into international football, the first thing you look for in a player, again at senior level, is do they have a weapon? And I'm going to talk about that word a hell of a lot. What's your weapon on the field? Right? And you need to have a point of difference. Are you a ball-playing defender? Are you a defender that's good and has aerial presence? Are you a defensive beast? Are you an attacker with speed? Are you an attacker that likes to play? Something must differentiate you from the rest of the players in that certain position. So you must have a weapon. The next thing you have is what we call, what kind of temperament do you have? The ability to handle setbacks, the ability to be in a group. How do you behave when things are going well? How do you behave when things aren't going well? Because one thing's guaranteed, it's always going to be bumpy. It's like the seatbelt sign in an aeroplane is coming on somewhere on your flight. It's going to get turbulent. And what we don't want is players who start to pose problems in the dressing room, because culturally I've lost more games of football or lost a job, not because I was poor tactically or not because the players were poor, but because the team culturally was a bit poisonous and toxic. So you must have good temperament. You must be a good person. You must be a good teammate. Then you must have a weapon, because for us, culture is critical.
Yep. No, that's perfect. So attitude is a big one, you think?
Massive. The first thing, because even before you kick a ball, when you come into a trial or you come into the national team, the first thing I do is I never meet the footballer. The first interaction between coach and player is simple. I meet the person, because I say, hi, how are you? I shake your hand. That's the person. And let me tell you, again, how young are the people on the call?
Anywhere from 12 to 20. 21.
Okay. Look, if I get in trouble, I get in trouble. But most football clubs, and in particular, if you come into an environment with Ivan Jolic, has a no dickhead policy. Right? Now, I'm sure 12-year-olds have heard that. If there's complaints, Ben, I apologise. And Josip, I apologise. But you need to understand that at any level, and that I think goes for even the 12-year-olds' parents. If you want your kid to have an opportunity at the highest level, make sure you don't behave like a you-know-what. Right? So remember, the first thing you do is you're the person. We meet the person first, and then it's the player.
Yep. No, perfect.
Just to jump in on that one there, what I was talking about is if anyone's had the opportunity to read about the All Blacks policy of player selection, that's a direct quote out of their player selection policy at an international level, is there's no D-heads allowed.
Yeah. It's it just comes down to the attitude thing as well at the end of the day. But we just had another question popped into the chat from JJ, and he's asking, what's the best way to approach a club when wanting to get a trial? He's currently playing at under 23 FGPL 2, and he wants to play up at a higher level next season.
I think the first thing I'd do is, the first interaction must be, you must send and make contact. Like, it's not a carer, it's not a parent, it's not an agent. I always like to hear from the player. The next thing that the coach will or the club will ask is, can you provide us some footage? I think that I've seen a lot of videos that come over my desk, Ben, Josip, and the reality is that I'm a busy man when I'm a coach, and most of irrespective at the level at which you want to jump to. So if you send me a 15-minute video, I'm not watching it. I'll be honest. So you need to send me a 2 to 3 minute video highlighting your weapons. What kind of player are you? So they clearly know what they're bringing in for a trial. Show me what you've got. Right? The next thing is follow that up with another phone call and see, is there a need for that player? If I was at under 23 level and wanting to go up, I'd make sure that the club was looking for a centre-back, if you're a centre-back. Don't just go to the higher level because, oh, yeah, it's NPL1. Or no, forget about that. You need to go there to play. If you're going to spend time at a trial, make sure that there's actually a position, a real position there to trial for. So look for real opportunity. Be man enough or lady enough to actually make that initial phone call. You make the phone call. Show them what type of person you are and tell them you're good enough. Show them the video and just take it from there.
Yeah, perfect. Great answer. Our next question we have for today is what is one or a couple of areas of a weekly training program that is more noticeable now than it was 10 years ago?
Yeah, the big one now is very much injury prevention and recovery.
Yep.
Right? So you know, the one asset that you have as a footballer are your feet and your body and your mind. Like that's your asset. That's what you as a business, and you're a business owner, you own your own performance, you own your own body, and you must look after yourself. So when you're injured, coaches, I'll be honest, we don't care about you. We care because we know that you're there, but our priority isn't with you because you can't help us win the next game of football at international or professional level. So you need to make sure that you're healthy. And to perform at your best, you need to be training at your best. To train at your best, you need to recover, nutrition, and sleep. All of those things now have become fundamental to any athlete, be it 12-year-old all the way through to a 38-year-old. Right? So I'd be spending a lot more time on being a footballer, not only when you're at training and on match day. It's a 24/7 job. If you're not sleeping, you're not fully recovered. If you're not fully recovered, you can't perform at training at your best. If you don't perform at your training, the bench, you're going to stand within about a meter or two of me on the bench.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the question's, oh, why am I playing? Well, because you may have missed an hour of sleep. You may have eaten a Big Mac at the wrong time, just before training. Your mates are going to the cinemas now, lads. Yeah, maybe you can't do that on match day -1. Why? Because I need to perform tomorrow. So that whole notion of recovery and sports science and gym for injury prevention is huge.
Yeah, perfect. So managing at a national level and bringing in established and full-time professionals, what challenges did that present to you? How would you go about nurturing a culture to ensure that the more notable players and egos didn't impact the team whilst also being in the tribute?
Yeah, it's a top question and one I've been fortunate enough to experience, and that is that look, you genuinely, because you at international level you have 6 weeks, 3 months between camps.
Yep.
You know who you're bringing in and you know the person you're bringing in. So remember, you know what I mean, that no DH policy still applies. And even if you do bring one in because he's that good a footballer, you know, and you set things up to manage that person. In terms of the challenges from a cultural point of view, the other thing to maintain at international level is when you go to a football club, Ben, you sign a 1, 2, 3 year deal. You can behave like you want. You can perform poorly. The next day, the contract's looking after you. The best thing about international level is this, and the first slide on day one of the first meeting we have, we tell everyone the difference between international level and club level. They've come from club level where they've got a 3-year contract. At a national team camp, on day one, you receive your tracksuit, your training kit, and everything. It's on your chair when you come into the meeting. On the last day of your camp, you return that tracksuit, you return everything that was given to you. And there's no contract. And we shake hands and we say goodbye. The goodbye could be until the next window. The goodbye could be forever. So players clearly know that don't stuff up, don't perform poorly, because you may never get called up again. The contract won't look after you. And most players who come in, one, totally understand that, and two, when you get athletes at that level, Ben, they're there because of incredible standards, incredible attitude to themselves, to football, and that ability to represent their country. That's the highest honour. You never really have those cultural issues or performance issues. So the one thing I'll say as a coach is at clubland, you're in control, but it can get prickly on occasions with a prickly player. But in international football, the coach has all the power because at the end of the camp, it's see you later.
Yeah, 100%. Just had a question, got a few questions in the chat. We'll just go to Harrison's first. He says, should young players be focusing on gym work as well as technical ability and fitness?
100%. If you're not in the gym, boys, from, and when I say in a gym, you could be doing it at home because a lot of you won't have access to a gym. But if you're not working on an injury prevention or a gym program from 12 years of age, you're not doing enough. You're not doing enough. And the reason I say that is because when you get to senior level or when you get to the point where you need to transition as a 16 or 18-year-old into senior football, the most common failure mode for me as an international coach or a professional team football coach is young players break down and can't keep up with training or the speed of the session. And as soon as you get injured, we go back to what I said before, and that is, I gave you the opportunity. You didn't take it. Now that you're injured, we now start looking to someone else. Injury prevention, gym is critical as of a very young age.
Yeah, no, 100%. And another one that was posted in the chat from Bintang. He says, what do scouts mainly look for in a player if you're trialing for like a professional academy?
Simple. Weapon.
Yeah.
If you don't have a weapon and you're just like 80% of footballers out there, then you're playing what I call scout lotto. You're just hoping you get scouted. Now, how about this? Develop a weapon and go from hoping to knowing. So don't hope you make the team. Don't hope you get the contract. Know you'll make the team. Know I'll get the contract. Why? Because I have a weapon. That weapon can be anything, but just develop a weapon. What's your point of difference to everyone else? I watch more football than anyone in Australia, and all I see is midfielders who pass the ball sideways and have a short to medium passing range.
Yeah.
I yawn.
Yeah, exactly. From Emmanuel, he says, what would coaches look for other than attitude in a player for a professional football club? So I guess he means other than like attitude and technical ability. What else would you look for?
I'd like to look for a player who's serious.
Yeah.
Are you serious in working hard? Are you serious to be the best version of yourself? Are you in the dressing room to be liked by your teammates, or are you there to do a job? I always look for the one with the best attitude and the one that's fully focused on getting the best out of themselves every minute of every day.
Yeah, no, perfect. Just quickly, Chimdi, there was an email sent out this afternoon, so just reply to my email with that and I can help you out with that. And our next question for today is from Zach Olsen, and he says, what's the hardest thing about making it professional in Australia, in your opinion?
Yeah, that is a top question. And can I be perfectly honest? The toughest thing for you is the hard work at 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 to get to that level. So a lot of kids and young players always complain about, I don't get an opportunity. Well, I'll be honest, I think you're all going to get an opportunity if you deserve it.
Yeah.
I've never met a coach who wouldn't pick a player who can help him or her win a game of football. So go about it as a 12-year-old, making sure you're developing yourself, developing a weapon, developing your physical attributes, developing all of those things, which will help me, Ivan Jolic, win a game of football, right? So the toughest thing for you is to be ready when your opportunity is presented. And I can tell you now, being at international level, and I've done 8 A-League pre-seasons, the most common failure mode for young players who are given the opportunity, they're given it, is they can't handle the intensity, or they then push themselves so hard to keep up, they break down. Simple. So that's got nothing to do with opportunity. We've provided so many Matildas opportunities, so many young players opportunities, but they can't cope. They ruin my session. So what would you like me to do? Wait for you to get to that level? I'm sorry, I haven't got that time. I need to win this week's game.
Yep, 1 week at a time, exactly. And from Augustine, he sent this through today. He says, is it better to master your strengths or improve on your weaknesses?
Master a weapon. Don't spend half your time becoming good on your right foot and good on your left foot. Become outstanding with your right foot or left foot, and make sure you meet the minimum requirements on your left foot. Who knows Lionel Messi?
I've heard of him.
Most would. Would he have a good right foot or an outstanding right foot?
Good, I'd say.
Good. Does he have a outstanding left foot?
Yes, 100%.
Find a weapon.
I think.
Don't master everything. You need to have minimum competency at those. Just get to good, but become outstanding in something.
Yeah, and I think you see that with a lot of the biggest players in the world have one thing that they're just absolute experts at.
Well, if you don't have a weapon, I don't know how you'll progress to international or professional ranks. I can honestly
say that phrase of yours, then, Ivan.
What's that?
Be good at everything, but a weapon at something.
That's it.
I'll put on a t-shirt.
Sell it, Josip.
No, love that. And another question that myself, Josip, and Ray thought of was today you're working in small groups and one-on-one training to encourage players to develop further. Aside from the session the player has with you and then with a club, how much away from the coach's eyes is needed in your view to stand out as a difference between you and the rest?
I think a lot. And we have an old saying, and I hope this answers the question, Ben, and that is that it's not what you do when you're at training, it's what you do when you're not there that matters the most. Right. So for us, that's critical. And you've embarked, boys. Any girls on the call, Ben? Any girls?
There is definitely someone. I'm not sure.
Okay, so boys and girls, it's what you do when the coach isn't watching that matters the most. If you're embarking on this dream, this fantasy to become a professional footballer, you've made a decision based, and it's a lifestyle choice. You can't eat junk food every day. Yes, you can be a 12-year-old, and yes, you need to have friends and mates and all of those things, but you can't live like that 12-year-old. You need to live like a professional footballer and make sacrifices. So those sacrifices is what I think will hold you in good stead, so that when you do come to training, you're standing out. And and like I said earlier, it's what you do every minute. You've got to be a pro every minute of most days. Your diet, your sleep, those things are critical. If you're not sleeping, you'll struggle. Ben, does that?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Very well. Recently saw on a podcast with Erling Haaland. He said that's the main thing that he focuses on, just getting a good night's sleep before a game.
Well, that's critical. Just to give you an idea, if we play a night fixture with the Matildas or with Macarthur or Melbourne City, and we get back to the hotel room at 10, 11 o'clock, there's always the question is, should we do recovery or should we go to sleep? to give you an idea, the pros and the best people in the world, sports scientists tell you sleep's better than anything. So sleep is so critical, boys and girls.
Yeah, 100%. Just a question from Emmanuel in the chat. He says, can a player make it to professional football if they play in state? I think he more means, is there a direct pathway through playing in state into making it as a professional?
Absolutely, there's a pathway. And again, don't spend all of your time trying to navigate the process. And the thing that gets you to the end of the pathway is simple. It's your performance. Don't worry about, everyone complains, there's favoritism, there's that. I'll be honest, guys, that is for players who aren't good enough. They look for excuses. Instead of worrying about all of that, navigating that, don't worry about it. Get in the gym. Go and run 400s. Go and do ball and a wall exercises. That's what's going to get you the pathway. Let me give you a story. There's a player that's gone into the A-League called Lachlan Rose. He's at MacArthur Football Club. An incredible journey. We signed him. He came as a moving mannequin. We needed some players when we started a new club, and he came just to trial the process. He wasn't a trialist. We brought players in to trial our process so that when the contracted players turned up, we wanted it all to run smooth as coaches. He came.
Yeah.
We just needed players who were available during the day that weren't at school. He came. He was the fittest. So when the contracted players came, we had to get rid of all the other moving mannequins. We kept Lockie because he wasn't ruining our session and he was fit. Then all of a sudden, the practice game started and we needed Lockie because he could play minutes, because the senior players, we needed to protect them. They weren't ready to play too many. So we said, Lockie can play lots. He's fit. Just keep him and that'll make sure our big players don't get injured. Then he started scoring in the friendly games. Every friendly game we play, Lockie scored. Lockie scores. So you just keep him. 2 weeks before the season starts, Lockie's got a contract in the A-League. He came out of NPL 2 as a player who was literally at the bus stop, and we needed a player to help us run our process, our session. Lockie's now captain of MacArthur. He signed 3 deals there. NPL 2, as a 15-year-old, was at RPL Leichhardt in an NPL 1 team, was the top goal scorer. They told him, we don't need you. He was a top goal scorer and they released him. As an under 16, he said, I can't be stuffed with this. He went and played for the Sydney Swans AFL. And then he didn't have a really good experience. And a few of his mates said, no, come back and play soccer, Lockie. You're better at soccer than Aussie rules. And he said, rightio. So we went to Blacktown Spartans in NPL 2. And from there, he went reserve grade, first grade, did well, was at a bus stop. We found him on the street. And now so the journey's there if you're that high performer with the best attitude.
Yeah. So you think almost
Lachlan Rose.
Yeah. So you think almost no matter what level you're playing at or where you're playing, there's a pathway somewhere for you to
There's
find.
a pathway if you're good enough. But if you prefer, let me explain something to you. And I know I've spoken a bit, but for the boys and the girls.
I go for it.
The journey to the top is simple. There's a formula. And I always say this to the young players. It's the formula to the top is simple. Sustained motivation plus tenacity will get you to the top. The problem is hard work gets in the way. So have a good think about that. Sustained motivation and tenacity. But hard work gets in the way. So if you're that player that's complaining about, they don't look at me, can I tell you? Somewhere in there, maybe you're just not working hard enough. Just maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Keep these questions coming through, players. We're loving these. Here's another question from Ray, Joseph, and myself. If you were to recruit a player today between the ages of 16 to 21 for a starting 11 role in the A-League or any professional environment, what information would you be seeking to convince you to pick up the phone and call them?
Again, we would do reference checking to make sure. So we'd never pick up the call without reference checking. So boys and girls, how you behave as an under 12, under 13 will impact how your reference check, because I'll always call your junior coaches and coaches you've worked with before to work out what kind of person are we inquiring about? Is he and she a good person? Do they have a good attitude? What kind of trainer are they? So the reference checking is really important, really important. And then after that, again, it's what's your point of difference? What makes you different to the other players in that position? Why am I calling you? If you're a striker, why am I calling you instead of the other 20 strikers that have sent me a video or would like a trial?
Yeah.
Think of that. Don't ever think you're the only person who's wanting to trial or get a contract at a football club. You might be one of 30 for that position. What makes you different?
100%. Very good question. And from Thomas, just put this into the chat. Do you have any advice for coming into a new team? So, for example, coming into a team at the start of pre-season, at the start of the year.
I think the first thing to do is be yourself in your environment, and just be humble. You're never bigger or better than anyone. No one ever is. When you are walking into a dressing room, you need to understand you are the new person. And I always encourage people to read the room. Just have a look at what the room looks like, what's acceptable, try and understand the culture, and then work yourself into that dressing room culture. So sometimes be yourself, be humble, work hard. Don't spend your time trying to be liked by everyone. Try and be liked as a teammate because of your attitude, your professionalism, your performance on the pitch. Let that do the talking as opposed to being the big, loud person in the dressing room.
Yeah, perfect. And from Alan, what is a good reference material to start an off-field training program or gym, like works, books, online? Do you know of any good references, or would you just advise to have a Google search and try and look into it yourself?
Well, I suppose, I don't know if it's the right or wrong thing to do, Ben, but I do run a mentoring service for young players, such as the guys on the. Just send me an email. I look after players all around Australia, and we write programs and mentor players along the journey to get them bigger. So, for an example, I had a boy in NPL 1 under 18s in New South Wales. He wanted to go overseas. We had a look at him. We worked on a food diary. The first thing was he wasn't eating enough. So we said, rightio, you need to put on some. Long story short, with the gym program, running program, he put on close to 7 kilos of good weight in a 6-month, and he's now in the under 19 Croatian first division, working his bum off to hopefully make the grade. So the short answer is it's in the email above you. But there's other people out there that do different things, and I'd say just explore.
Yeah, 100%. This one's just come through as well. The questions are flowing through. What attributes would you look for in a winger or a forward?
Okay, so I think wingers need to define themselves in the following categories, and that is that, are you a good 1v1 attacker? I would say you're either a 1v1, very good, very direct. You need to be able to score and assist goals. That's how I'll measure you. If you can't score or can't assist goals, then why have I got you in the attacking line? Ask yourself that. Don't talk to me about, I made a good pass. First question I'll say is, can he score? Can she assist? That's it. Now, you can do that two ways. You can either be a 1v1 attacker, or you can be that attacker that likes to come back inside and come in through central areas. So I would say the key thing, though, is you need to be able to score and assist. And the other thing that may help you, and in particular in the modern game, is what's your attitude towards defending? So have a think about this, boys and girls, and that is that most coaches, or a lot of coaches now, like to, when they're defending, win the ball as high up the field as possible. So the first people who defend are the attackers. One of the things I want to see is what's the players or the attackers' attitude towards defending. And that's become a very important part of the game.
Yeah, it all comes back to that attitude thing, as you were saying before.
100%.
Yeah, this one from Ryan. What are some attributes he could work on away from club training as a midfielder?
I would think the one, and the best way to answer this is, well, what do I feel the gaps are in Australian football currently, given, I've taken an under 20 national team to the Asian Cup, and, we couldn't get beyond the semi-finals. The gaps currently in Australian midfielders are two things. One is we don't have a ball-winning midfielder anymore in this country. Everyone thinks they're a ball-playing midfielder. A ball-winning midfielder, think of Kante, who's now gone to Saudi Arabia, but was at Chelsea. Not the world's greatest technician, but I want him on my team. Every coach wants one of them. So are you a ball winner or are you a ball player? Now, if you're a ball player, now what I'm looking at is, I'm not looking at the number of passes you're making. I'm looking at the number of passes that are eliminating opposition players. Maybe a bit complex for the young kids, but how many times and how good is your ball playing forward through the opposition? That's what we need. We need short to medium passes through opposition lines, and then I'm looking for a midfielder. Can I have a midfielder that can actually play a long pass?
Yeah.
Over defenses. From my 6 to my winger, over. We need long passes, and there's a big difference between a long ball to a contest and a long pass to a teammate. Don't get confused. Don't let coaches tell you, don't play the ball in the air. That's rubbish. We need midfielders who can play short, medium, and long passes accurately. And then where's that ball-winning midfielder? Is that your weapon?
Yeah, 100%. As you said before, it comes back to the bravery. Being brave to hit that long ball over to your winger or something like that, for example. Questions come through regarding sleep and training. So Emmanuel says, how many times a day should we sleep and how many times each week should we be in the gym? I guess he means how many times a day and for how long should you sleep?
So great question. Is it Emmanuel?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, great question, Emmanuel. Look, I would think that you should be doing at least 2 gym sessions a week, right? One should focus on upper body, the other should focus on legs, or you should be doing 2 which incorporate a bit of both, and there's got to be some injury prevention. So I'd say you're looking at 2. In terms of sleep during the day, now, you should never sleep more than 45 minutes during the day, because that then you head into deep sleep. And if you go into deep sleep, that'll impact your sleep quality at night. So what you're looking for during the day is a nap. You're looking for a 20 to 30, 40-minute nap during the day and get yourself up. Don't ever sleep long during the day. That will impact your sleep at night. So no point sleeping during the day for 3 hours and then waking up at 2 in the morning and not sleeping until 5 and then falling back asleep.
Yep, 100%. This question has been asked by 2 people. And they're saying, should a player be playing multiple positions? And do you look for players who play in multiple positions?
I think that, again, you need to master a weapon and you need to have a good understanding of your position. I think there's a certain age at which you need to start to specialize. Now, again, this is just my gut this is mine. This is a personal opinion. It's not scientific. I think Australian players should start to specialise around that 14, 15. But if you can play two positions, I think it gives you more chance of making it, right? Because every coach, in particular in a salary camp like the A-League, if I can have a player that can play a central striker and a winger, that helps me, right, as a coach. So I think having two positions is good, but you don't want to be good at both positions. You want to be good at one and excellent at the other. Yeah. Remember, don't be good at both. We need an outstanding somewhere or an excellent somewhere.
Yeah, perfect. So there's a lot of players asking for specific positions and what you look for in that. And I'm not sure if we're going to have time to go through all of them. But first one we had that came through was, what's an example of a weapon that a goalkeeper can have?
A goalkeeper in the modern game would be someone who can play out and is comfortable in possession of the ball in the back third under pressure.
Yeah.
You know, if you ever look at Ange Postecoglou at Tottenham, his keeper, he's playing rondos in his own 6-yard box against Manchester City in front of 60,000 people. And he's not nervous. Have a look at Barcelona. So I think that's where the modern goalkeeper for a lot of coaches is heading.
Yeah, 100%. And then we had Ian, who's asking, what are some main attributes that a fullback should have?
A fullback should have very, very good physical attributes, the ability to run at high speed, often for long periods of the game. And the reason for that is you need to be able to defend in your own 18-yard box, but you also need to be able, hopefully, to attack and get into your attacking 18-yard box. And that comes through high-speed repeat efforts. Again, a bit scientific for the young group there, but I think you need to have that. So if I want a player that's a fullback to be able to perform in his own defensive box, you need to be able to defend. You need to be able to defend 1v1 in your own box, not give away penalties, and block all of those things. Then when I can get you into my attacking box, you're going to be in and around the wider areas. You need to be able to, your final pass in that area of the field is critical. Why? To set up goals, be it from cutbacks or crosses. But again, it's your final pass in the front third and your ability to defend in the back third.
Yeah, perfect. We're going to do the last question of the day. We're going to kind of mix up Tyler and Kobe's question. What are some attributes that you would look for in a midfielder, both attacking and defensive mid?
Run that by me again. I think it broke up.
That's okay. What are some attributes that you look for in a midfielder, both attacking and as a defending midfielder?
As an attacking midfielder, you need to be able to unlock defenses, right? You need to be able to play a vertical pass, create chances, and score goals. So shooting from distance, making forward runs, and setting up teammates. So the killer pass is critical. I see too many attacking midfielders who are happy just to keep the ball and don't take risks. Your job as a number 10 is to score and create goals. Don't be under any illusions. I want you to take risks. If you play 8 passes into your 18-yard box and only 2 come off, that's fine if they've scored or if they've helped create 2 goals. So you've got to have that mentality of continue to take risks to play vertical or forward passes to create goals. As a defensive midfielder, I think I've spoken about that. Are you a ball player or are you a ball winner?
Yeah, 100%. Well, thank you for the meeting today. It was very informative. Thank you all players for sending through your questions and stuff like that. Joseph, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, look, thanks, Simone, for jumping in and sharing those insights with the players. It's valuable for them to take all this on board. Some of it can be a little bit over the top in terms of their understanding, but as they mature and grow into the sport, they'll get to know and review this video and be able to dive into these responses. So thank you very much. For anyone that gets the opportunity to reach out to Ivan and his email address, please do so. He's a valuable resource. He's had a wonderful experience with football, and if you get the opportunity and you're visiting in Sydney, reach out to him. Have some sessions with Ivan up in the northern beaches in a beautiful part of the world. So he'll run you ragged, then send you to the beach behind his house.
I definitely will. I just want to thank all the boys and girls, and I think Josip, you are right. Sometimes, some of the stuff I did say was maybe a bit difficult to understand, but I think the key things are hard work. Don't blame others. You own your own destiny, and you control your own destiny, and that comes through sustained motivation plus tenacity, and hard work gets in. A lot of the time, hard work gets in the way, and they all understand that. And if I want to leave with one other thing, and that is make sure, boys and girls, the love of the game the love of the game must be greater than the pressure. As soon as you put more pressure, or the family puts more pressure on you, it's time to move. Don't go and find another sport. Your love of the game is what's got you to this Zoom call. You've got to have that same love in 5, 10, 20, look at us, 50 years' time, I still love this game, right? And if anyone does want to reach out or just wants to have a question, I think the email's there. If not, Josip, Ben, share that. I'm more than happy to help the group as much as I can.
Yeah, perfect. We appreciate that. And Emmanuel, just sending through questions, just send me through an email regarding the GPS and trials and stuff, and I can get back to you with that. But good luck on your journey, Ivan, and I'm sure we'll be in touch soon.
Thank you very much, everyone. Good luck. All the best.
Have a good day.
You
Bye.
too.
Thank you.